I'm Kyle McHugh, and I'm in a hotel lobby in Columbia, Missouri. With me, as always, is Matt and Jim. I'm speaking at this level because I don't want to disturb the others in the lobby. It's going to be a different type of show, a more calm show, a more ASMR show for you guys. What's the network NPR style show, Jim? Hey, takeaways from yesterday. I have a good takeaway, Jim, but I'll
Let's go.
save it.
Fire,
I'll
no,
save
fire
it.
away.
Okay.
You're ready.
I was in Manhattan for the K-State KU game, and boy, that was one of the best games I've ever seen live. The overtime, the crowd, the octagon, all extremely awesome. The Bush Light, incredible, and just high level ball. Yeah, Kansas missed a couple free throws, but all in all, it was K State's game, start to finish. The court storm was incredible, and Jerome Tang's speech at the end, it made me want to be a member of the Tang gang. I'm in on K State, man. I'm in on K State.
So you're part of EMA. You are a Wildcat now.
I guess I'm part of I'm emaiing a little bit, Jim. We'll say a little bit.
You've signed up. Interesting. Kai, yesterday was a strange day in that there were almost no upsets. You go down the KenPom page and there were 3 games where the pre-game underdog per KenPom won. And that has not been the case most of this year. I feel like it's been a very chaos-ridden, tough to figure out kind of season. But yesterday mostly held true to form. Matt, I think we're seeing Creighton ascend back up to maybe not top 5, but where a lot of people thought they would be preseason top 15-ish, just dominated Butler with no Manny Bates. Alabama looked great. Iowa State continues to be awesome in the Big 12. So yeah, I was my most surprising takeaway was how unsurprising yesterday was.
Agree. Wisconsin got back in the win column. Jim Buzzcut Badgers. Tyler Wall doesn't matter. I believe he had 10 points. He played pretty well. Didn't play a full workload. Didn't look 100%, but good to see him back in there. Like just good to see good players who matter for teams that matter return. Covering injuries is like the least part. That my least favorite part of this job, and so I'm just glad to get some healthy guys back in the next guy. Also, K-State fans, I'm sorry. That was awesome. You're good. I get it. I'll just stop trying to be cute and against the grainy. It's insane. I don't understand it, but it's working. It's unreal.
They're good, and I was a huge fan of the K-State fandom in general. The chants they have are pretty unique from what I've seen from other schools. I'm still not a fan of Willie the Wildcat. Just not a fan of just a regular guy with a cat head. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Is he a big guy, Kai?
No, he's not really. He's kind of built like us, to be honest. Yeah,
Joe Schmelly. Okay,
he's no Truman the Tiger. Okay, game 1, Arkansas at Mizzou. Yes, I'm in Columbia. I'm going to this game. I cannot wait for it. Yes, I went to Mizzou. Yes, I'm wearing a Missouri shirt. I'm a big homer. Yes, it's my best bet. Missouri -1.5. I'm hoping for another great game here, Jim. I think Mizzou can do it. They led Arkansas for 30 minutes in the first game. They're 10 for 48 their last 2 games from 3, which I think turns around here. I think the home crowd gets it for the Tigers tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the spot, the matchup quite a bit. I think in the first game, the spot for Arkansas ended up overriding the matchup, and Arkansas was able to get the win, but not the cover. I think the matchup was really exposed, though, Matt, with the way Mizzou slowed the game down at times with their zone, forced Arkansas to shoot over the top. The one thing that is a concern is getting absolutely battered on the offensive glass. Mizzou needs to be very compact and rebound as a team, which does sort of hurt the transition opportunities, but I think Mizzou will generate a few more turnovers with it being at home, not in front of that great Bud Walton crowd. Again, I think they will play very compact with the zone. Arkansas is near the bottom of the country in both 3-point attempt rate and 3-point percentage. They are a horrific shooting team, both volume-wise and efficiency-wise. I think Mizzou is going to be smart enough to realize that. Given the return home here, Matt, after losing 3 of 4 on the road, the poor shooting they've experienced, I think this sets up very well for Mizzou. Market's kind of with that, but man, go Tigers.
Go Tigers, Mizzou rah. I just added it myself about a half hour ago.
Really? This surprises me.
For the record, I am one betting on Mizzou. I was pretty big on Mizzou when they got railroaded by Texas A&M. Although they competed late in the second half, made a good run, but then Texas A&M continued to push ahead late. I think that A&M game, as we've learned, is like A&M's basically doing the same thing as last year, where they kind of waltz through the non-conference, and then Buzz Williams gets really pissed off and energizes his team, and now they've just looked really good. Mizzou's been in tough spots the last couple of games. Now they're in the right spot. Jim, you mentioned it, how the spot advantage flips in the second leg of this rematch. I think the zone angle you mentioned is real. The one thing about Arkansas, I'm looking at their starting lineups for the last 2 games. Both Mitchell twins have started, which I would agree they've gotten a lot better this season. But like it feels a lot like a Rhode Island roster that Arkansas is feeling now without Trevion Brazil, Nick Smith on the mend. Even Anthony Black didn't play great last game, and the rest of those guys are. I mean, obviously they're more talented than that, but they're not as overwhelmingly talented. I think Mizzou wins this game outright. So plain and simple, nothing overly complex for me.
Kai, I got one more bold take here in this game. Anthony Black gets a technical. He was so close multiple times at Vanderbilt, just chirping, spouting off, stepping over guys on the ground. I think in another hostile environment with people chirping at him, a lot of crowd.
Yeah,
I think
it'll play well.
There won't
Mizzou.
be a prop bet for that, but I'm gonna put that out there. I think he gets a tech.
Jim, I love the take. I hope he gets a tech. That would be a great momentum booster for the Tigers. Yeah, go Mizzou, best bet, -1.5. All right, next game. UConn, -5 at Seton Hall. And Matthew, I heard the news that Dan Hurley is out with COVID, and I said I like UConn even more. In all honesty, I think he holds him back a little bit. The team is crazy talented. He's had crazy talent in the past, and frankly, I think he's underachieved a little bit. He's too emotional, man. His emotions get the best of him. UConn fans realize this, but they'll defend him to the death. Anyways, I like UConn. What do you think about this game?
I think UConn destroys Seton Hall up front. I don't really have a take on the whole Hurley. I think it's just like a wash. I'm not going to bet on UConn without him. I'm not going to like fade him without him. It's funny, Rob mentioned that the line did move up a point on that news. I think it was related to that news specifically, or it could have just been coincidental. I think it was related to the Hurley stuff, though.
I'll go
I
coincidental,
think it's kind of
but yeah.
Coincidental? Okay.
Yeah.
-5 does feel short, Jim. I know UConn's been reeling lately, but Seton Hall has struggled with size. I think I don't think they can stand up here inside to UConn. So I like the Huskies.
Yeah, no Yetna's really hurt them. Just that one more banger body inside who's capable of getting 8 to 10 rebounds.
He's huge, actually. Yep.
The problem for UConn is their guards have just kind of been awful recently. 21 turnovers at home against St. John's, just could not hang on to the ball. The group of guards they have, like, now that they're not running away with games repeatedly, you stop and think, you're like, oh, the point guard for 191st ECU and the backup guard for 80th ranked Texas A&M last year, and a wing for Virginia Tech who's not a ball handler, and San Diego's like third guard in Calcaterra. Like, maybe these aren't the guards for a top 5 team in the country. I have some concerns with them on the road going to Seton Hall, who is long and is going to pressure a little bit. We know Shaheen Holloway is pretty decent as an underdog. We've seen it happen on the sport's biggest stage. So, yeah, I don't know, Kai. Maybe it's advantageous that we know Dan Hurley can't get a technical late in the game and derail his team a little bit. But I just, this one has me a little bit spooked. UConn they might just be a different team than they were the first 10 games.
Yeah, it's possible. I've seen them at their best, and it's scary how good they can be. So I'm hoping that version shows up, especially after their recent struggles. So go Huskies. Well, Dagan, the producer, went to Seton Hall. So with apologies to Dagan, his best bet is Seton Hall money line if you want to tail him. Next
He's
game.
hot this year. He is hot.
He is hot. TCU at West Virginia is our next game. West Virginia -2.5. TCU, Jim, unquestionably the much better team, but West Virginia is no slouch. Morgantown, tough place to play. They're well coached, and they're desperate to get that first league win, man. Winless in the Big 12 so far. I understand why they're favored, but I also understand the confusion around it.
This has been the game I've been texted about most by random people that want to bet on college basketball right now. They're like, why is this team laying? Why is West Virginia laying points here? Why is TCU getting points? They've looked so much better. West Virginia is ranked at or above where TCU is in pretty much every analytical site. So that gives you that explanation. They're more desperate. But I think both teams are in a very different spot than they were like the first 2 weeks of the year. West Virginia was blowing teams out of the water, making every single jump shot. And they've started to see some of that regression come through. Whereas TCU was horrific the first 2 weeks of the season, really shorthanded without Damian Baugh. And now they look like a beast. So, Matt, does this go the way of Texas Tech last night, where the unranked home favorite loses fairly comfortably to Baylor? Or is it the opposite, where Wake Forest leads by 10 the whole game as the unranked home favorite?
Right.
I tend to lean towards TCU here. I just think they're better, and this version of them is better. But I'm scared of the spot. West Virginia home run at home, trying to figure things out, trying to get above or off the schneid in the Big 12. So I didn't actually bet it, even though I lean Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I do too, but I respect the spot too much to bet it. Like, I think you hit it on the head. Like, don't be in a rush to bet TCU because of the, I don't know, presumed fishiness of this line or whatever. West Virginia's still good. They've struggled in close games. You could argue they're overrated or played over their heads. I don't know. I love Huggins. I think his track record speaks for himself. I like this roster construction. They played well for the most part at OU. Played well for the most part against Baylor at home, and that was a close loss. And they've only dropped 4 spots in KenPom since the start of conference play. So like you see 0-5, it's not like they're like absolutely on a huge tailspin. They've just been a lot of close games in the most brutal conference, well, I don't know, in the history of college basketball. So I think you look at it from that lens, you can understand what the line is, what it is. But again, all that is to say, I'm not taking anything. I respect the spot, and I got nothing.
Yeah, they're 0-5 in conference, but they're number 24 in KenPom. So it's still a really good team. This is why the line is the way it is. Yeah, I love TCU. Ordinarily, I would be backing them here, but I don't know. The blue collarness of West Virginia, I know they work hard. They hit the glass. They get fouled. Weird stuff can happen in Morgantown. It isn't the spot, in my opinion, to back TCU. So I'm just staying away. Next one, Providence at Marquette, a very good one here. The line is high. Marquette minus 7.5, Matt, but likely no Jared Bynum for Providence. That's pretty big. But having said that, Ed Cooley is a dog, over 7 points. That's tempting to me. What do you think?
I grabbed some 8, and I was a little bit too antsy there because Bryce Hopkins may not play tonight as well. I know he's a game time decision. I've heard some conflicting reports. It feels like he is going to play. But yeah, it'd be tough to be sitting there with a +8 ticket without Bynum and Hopkins. I think Hopkins is actually much more important than Bynum, just because he's like a one-man X factor scoring stud, and he also can defend the versatile, speedy, agile bigs that Marquette has, which has been kind of their secret sauce, in my opinion, all year. Like, we talked about how awesome their guards have been, Kolek and Cam Jones, but I think the Prosper duo up front, the way they can just like attack from the perimeter and get you inside in space, that's so deadly. And we saw it against Xavier, like driving hard, scoring over those bigs. I think Hopkins is a great counter to that. So he'll be a big loss on both ends. One of the few injuries I'll mention, Jim, as in the matter category. Hoping he plays. If he doesn't, I might be buying off a little bit. If he does, I'll feel really good about holding an Ed Cooley +8 ticket. Ed Cooley as a dog versus Shaka as a dog.
Yeah, you mean Shaka as a favorite? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm betting Ed Cooley as a dog against the Shaka as a dog angle. Yeah. It's like when these two teams play for the next 5 years, just bet the dog. You'll probably be fine.
Pretty much, yeah. Ed Cooley is a road dog, 88.57 against the spread, 60.7%. Shaka is a home favorite, 45.9% in his career. So like both things really tilt towards Providence there. However, the Bynum thing's enough to make me stay away. Your best ball handler against a team that pressures, I don't like the juju around that. And home Marquette, someone mentioned in the chat, they're fantastic. They can go on just insane scoring runs there. And it's tough to deal with when you get steals and can shoot and score the way they do. You can kind of just get buried at times. So I don't want to bet against Cooley as a dog. I don't want to bet against home Marquette or back a team without its starting point guard against Marquette. Kai, there's too much pulling in both directions. It's like the most obvious stay away. I do kind of like the over, though.
And per Harry in the chat, they're honoring the 03 Final Four team tonight.
Yep.
That's a lot of juice.
Your Travis Deaners.
Yes.
Your Robert Jacksons. Your Todd Townsends.
I think Novak was on the team. He didn't play. He was like a freshman, I think.
He was young.
He was the sixth man. He played a little bit.
Oh, was he sixth man?
Just would hit like 2 or 3 threes. I grew up in Marquette, or like Wisconsin fans. So I remember.
Yeah. Worth noting, Providence won this first game in double overtime, if you recall, at their place. I do kind of think Marquette returns the favor here. But there is some interesting 4 factors things going on. Best offensive rebounding team in the Big East against the worst defensive rebounding team in the Big East. That's Providence against Marquette. And then the number 1 turnover team in the Big East, Marquette, forcing turnovers against the worst turnover team in the Big East without their point guard and Jared Bynum. The number feels high, but I think I lean towards Marquette. That takes us to Chat Mob, part 1. I don't know who was Jim, right? Jim Cesar?
I'm your czar. I have 2 orders of business before we hit games, though. 1, I think our stream is back. Chat said we were in, then out, then in, then out again. We're here. We're ready to rock. Kai, I need a report on the looks you're getting from the rest of the lobby. The people are clamoring for it. Need to hear that before we hit the chat mob questions.
There's some weird ones. I'll just keep it at that.
Okay, great. Love to hear it. All right, Matt, I'll start with you. A game I know we agree on. Scott H asked about Oregon at Cal. Oregon's laying 8 points on the road at Cal.
Let's go Bears. Bear down, baby.
It's Thursday, Oregon, right? Like, fade them.
Look at the Oregon oscillations in their Pac-12 schedule. It's Oregon inconsistencies. Yes, they're healthier. Yes, they're better. I think they're going to be legit in a month, but this is a great time to fade them. DeJuan Clayton, greater than Devin Askew. Look at Cal's splits when Clayton's in the lineup. It's like not even close. Pac-Man, greater than.
I like that greater than. That's good. Yeah, I look. Oregon's off that huge Arizona win. They've shown a very huge propensity to not get up for midweek games. I think that spot's horrific for the Ducks. All right, Kai, UMass Lowell. They have been rolling until they got to league play. Now they're 1-4 against the spread, have lost 2 of their last 3, -4 at home against UMBC. Anything for us here?
Yeah, my number said it was short. I was going to take Lowell, but I laid off. They just haven't looked the same in league play. And UMBC has been really good. And I happened to catch one of their games, and I was impressed with what I saw. So I just assumed that I had Lowell a little bit overrated and UMBC underrated. And I tipped my cap to the line and said, no, thanks. I'll move on.
There you go. All right, Matt, a twofer from Pat Taylor. You get the first half. That would be Abilene Christian getting 8.5 at Utah Valley. And UVU's been fantastic. Are you going to back the home team here at a little bit of altitude?
It does feel high, and I respect Brett Tanner and the ACU program too much. However, I'd like to point out just how insane ACU's pressure has become, to the point of like just immensely undisciplined. 48 free throws UT Rio Grande Valley attempted against them 2 games ago. Last game against Tarleton, 36 free throws. So, I mean, if Utah Valley makes 75 to 80% of their free throws tonight, they should probably cover this number.
All right, Kai, the other one from Pat's 2-pack, Lafayette at American. Lafayette's just like been fantastic. I don't understand why they're like starting a walk-on. It just doesn't matter. American though is -5.
Yes.
Tad low? I don't know.
Yeah, it does. But Lafayette as a dog has been really, really good. If anything, I'd lean the under in this game. Lafayette's been a pretty good under squad. They tend to really slow games down, and American is fine with that. They're not really looking to score in transition, push the pace. Low number, but lean towards the under.
Yep, this was a consideration for a best bet for me here, the under. I just think it's going to be gross. Lafayette knows that they should slow the game down and slog it up against a little bit more talent. All right, Matt, for you, we're going to Jay Letterman's question. Is Radford and Campbell going to be another slog, an under? That's what he's asking about.
Yes, it's like 2 of the hardest under teams in my mind. So when you get 2 fairly extreme ends of the spectrum pinned against each other, you go that way. So I like the under there too. It's at 128. Sorry, 120. Yeah, 120. Well, wow, it's all over the place. It's like 128.5, and I see 126 at some shops. But don't shop BetRivers. What do they have? I don't have that number in front of me, but I think it's pretty good under.
All right, Kai, a lot of questions about certain games. So we're going to hit those. First, you get from the A10, Ethan W. and others ask about Duquesne at St. Bonaventure. Do we keep riding with the home Bonnies?
Yep, I did. It's scary. It's scary every time because they're usually playing a better team, but I'm riding the Bonnies home team trend. I think they're 7-1 now against the spread at home. Duquesne's clearly better, but I'm rolling with the Bonnies.
Yep, Bonnie's +1 at home right now. I think it's basically you're picking the winner. I would lean towards the home team as well. Matt, similar kind of line, getting asked about a lot. Furman at Chattanooga. The Mocs, a 1-point home favorite against the presumed preseason favorite in this league. Who are you going with?
Just a good basketball game. No hard take here, Jim. I will point out Furman's defensive issues are not solved, but they've been a lot better defensively so far in SoCon play. I know they just gave up 88 into UNC Greensboro. That was an OT. The few games before that, they looked a lot more competent. I think Furman's actually not the fade that I thought they were 3 weeks ago. So I stayed away here. I was looking to take Nuga, but I ended up not.
Go Paladins for my preseason SoCon futures.
Go Dens.
That's my whole bias there.
Our guy Richie. Our guy Bob Rich.
I'll take this one because I wrote it up for Action Network. Auburn at LSU. Auburn laying 4 on the road. I like the home Tigers here. It's Tiger versus Tiger battle, but I think this projects fairly similarly to LSU hosting Arkansas 2 weeks ago. They got the win as a 4-point home dog, won outright. I think the kind of changing defenses will frustrate Auburn shooting a little bit. As long as LSU can score enough points, it should be relatively ugly. Maybe an under would be of interest here as well. I think LSU can stay within that number and possibly even win outright.
Jim, I agree with you, and I hate LSU. I made fun of them how many times in this program. I almost took LSU +6. So Yeah. What, 6? Auburn
Well, it's
Road?
down to 4, unfortunately, but
Even that. Take LSU.
4.5. Yeah.
It stinks.
Knock on
All right,
wood.
Kai, let's go back to the outline. I'll continue herding questions. SMU, East Carolina, San Diego State. Seen them. They will be answered in part 2.
Alrighty, let's start with Bedlam. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. The Pokes are favored by 2 at home. Ugly, gross game. Matthew, you need to know Musa Cisse's status for Oklahoma State. He's very important for the Cowboys, who have been the Big 12's worst offense by a mile in conference play. Who do you like in this game?
Best bet is in this game, kind of like Boomer Sooner on the road. This is a huge win opportunity for the Sooners to build their at-large resume. And obviously every Big 12 game is, so it's kind of a stupid anecdote, but I just think the matchup here in what should be a very sluggy, half-court based, execution-based game, I give the slight lean to what I think is a slightly better coach, especially in that type of setting. The Cisse thing, Kai, I read that he played in like 1 or 2 non-contact drills yesterday. I don't think he's very close to returning. I know he's been like close to returning the last few games, and he's like been in warmups and about to play. I think they drag this out a little bit. I would bet that if he does play, he's not going to be even close to 100% effective. And we've talked about how much he means to this team. Last 3 games, no Cisse. They've been inept, not just on offense, but even defense. Gave up 74 points to Baylor last game in a pretty slow-paced affair. So now it's like, what's their identity? If you don't have a dominant defense to hold you up without Cisse, like I think this is really a soul-searching time for the Pokes until they get Cisse back and 100% effective, Jim.
Yeah, he's like you said, you think, oh, he's super important defensively. Okay, I get it. Shot blocker, amazing defensive rebounder, but without him finishing near the rim as a pick and roll man, that's a problem. Oklahoma is like one of the most under ball screen teams in the country. It's always been a Porter Moser thing. They force a ton of isolation that way because you just like, they'll go under screens. You either pull up from 3 or you have to go one-on-one against it. And man, Oklahoma State can't shoot unless it's Asbury, Kai. That's a problem. I think if they're living on the perimeter, they're going to be really frustrated. And Oklahoma's ability to game plan with Moser and move defenses around with their bigs, I think that's a nice edge. I'm worried about the home court. I still think that matters in the Big 12, but would lean towards Matt's Boomer Sooner.
I just laughed at the comment. Club Vogue after Tigers win tonight. Yeah, I'll take my wife to Club Vogue. It's
About
a really
Tony
a classy establishment. Tony C's. I don't think that exists anymore at Columbia.
Is the other one Rumors?
Tough.
That was the name of the bar. Okay, thank you. Sidetracked. I'm also worried about the home team here. Oklahoma State's been competitive without Cisse. They've tend to blown games late, but they've been scrappy. They've competed with good teams without him. So I think they can still beat Oklahoma here, which has me kind of staying away. But I support Matthew's best bet of Oklahoma +2.
As you should.
As I always do. I always support you. Next game, Virginia Tech at Virginia. Virginia's laying 5. This game has come down. All I can say here, Jim, is Hunter Couture better play. I was burned backing Virginia Tech against Syracuse, assuming he would play. If he's in, I like the Hokies here. What do you think?
Yeah, they're just massively undervalued because of their performances without him. Like they've been so bad without him. They were clearly a different team with him in the lineup. He's their best perimeter defender, an elite perimeter shooter. Their whole offense is running really intricate actions with guys running off of screens. And if there's nobody with gravity off those screens, the way Couture does, he can shoot off movement. Then you can sag off, you can help inside. You don't have to worry as much about Basili and Mutts in the paint because you're not stretched out on the perimeter. It's wild how much he matters. It reminds me of the Iowa teams like 2 years ago when CJ Frederick was out and people were like, he averages 8 a game. Why is he even important? It's like gravity, like the actual gravity of a shooter is so important. So with him back, I think Virginia Tech can shoot over the top. These games are frequently very close. Yeah, Matt, it's kind of a lowish number now, lower than I would have hoped to get.
Yeah, it's down to 5.
But I would still lean towards the Hokies. Feels like a close game.
I just saw Mike Barber, the Richmond Times reporter, did confirm that he will play tonight. So I think that's what ultimately pushed the number down to 5.5, 5. It was like opened at 7, right? And got moved to 6.5, 6, which is like the kind of one leg in. I think he's playing, but not really sure. The market now knows he's playing and they've fully bet into it. Can't back VT at this price, but I do lean their way. Also, I've known Rodney Rice debuted last game for VT. He's like a top 100 recruit, very like a big time athlete, like Young, raved about how good he is in transition. Kind of a stocky bowling ball type dude. I like his game. I saw him on tape. He could be a pretty big piece there going forward. Not sure how much he means in this matchup, but just something to note.
I think, and Jim is more the authority on this, I think Mike Young has done pretty well against Tony Bennett in recent years. This team's also desperate for a win. I mean, they've lost 5 straight in the ACC. They're 1-5. They're basically holding on to a thread right now. And while their numbers aren't great, their shooting numbers, they can shoot. They can stretch the line, especially with the Couture in there. So despite my questions on defense, I think Virginia Tech hangs around here. So lean their way.
They're shooting 29% from 3. Go, Jim. Your stats better.
29% from 3 is silly. That team's a good shooting team.
Yeah, right, right.
Padula is a great shooter. Young's covered 2 of 3 against Virginia Tech.
Okay.
2 years. So, yeah.
I like it. Virginia hasn't been that great, but I'm still taking the stat. I'm still taking it. Florida at Texas A&M is our next game. A&M laying 4, and they've been rolling lately. Matthew Cox living up to the top 50, top 40 preseason billing. They're 4-0 in the SEC. They've covered every single game. In fact, they're one of the better ATS teams in the country. They are 12-5 this season against the number. Surprised me after their slow start. Florida showing some life. You're a Gator guy. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am a Gator guy, but they've continued to be priced in the clouds. It's like my alter ego is the one that's setting the opening lines at Pinnacle or Bet Chris. I just think that I want to bet Florida. I do think the A&M resurgence is real, but it's pinned against another team that's also on the up and up, and it's a team I like more, Florida. But again, it all comes back to price for me in this one, and I don't think Florida should be a 4-point road favorite here. I think it should be closer to like 2 or 1, just given the form A&M's in.
A&M's is a home favorite.
I'm sorry. I think Florida should be like closer to a 6-point dog or something, not a 4-point dog. I'm flipping my. So I had this priced around.
A&M better on a neutral.
Yeah, right now
I'm curious.
I have a slight half-point better. Yes, just based on form.
Okay. This is not a handicapping angle, but Texas A&M put out a video on Twitter of the team practicing to "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins, and Tyrese Radford is banging the drums when the drum part comes in.
That's huge.
And the team goes nuts. And I was like, man, I'm getting good vibes. That's cool. Aggie squad. Okay. So got to be careful of that. Clearly they're enjoying themselves together. Chemistry matters. They just whooped up on South Carolina. But I do think Florida is trending up too. Like Matt said, I think they, even with as strong as Marble has been in the paint, Castleton's the best big man on the floor. I think he can still control that area. And Florida's starting to hit a couple of jump shots more than they were early in the season. Kyle Lofton hit a couple of big ones against Mizzou, both from long 2 and 3-point range, that sort of turned the tide in that game. If Florida hits jump shots, they're really, really good because that defense is all the way legit. And Texas A&M going to try to force turnovers, get to the free throw line. We'll see if they can do that against Florida. This one ended up being a stay away for me as well.
Yeah, Florida's definitely showing some life to their credit. The first game A&M won in Gainesville, it was a free throw fest. A&M just kind of outmuscled Florida. They beat them on the boards. They beat them to the free throw line. I tend to think the Gators put up a better fight here, but A&M's better right now, frankly, and I lean towards the Aggies at home. It's either that or stay away from me. All right, last game on the rundown, guys. We got Bradley at Indiana State. I did include a Missouri Valley game. This one is important for the top of the standings here. I think it's Indiana State's game, Jim. I got the stats here. Bradley on the road. Bradley is 1-5 against the spread with a -6 cover margin on the road. They're 1-3 in the Valley straight up on the road. At home, they're 9-0 with a +15 cover margin. This team is different when they go on the road. In Indiana State, 2-game skid. They're due for a bounce back. Give me the 6. Who do you like?
Man, +15 home cover margin for Bradley is absolutely ludicrous in 9 games too. It's not like it's one outlier that's totally weighting that. Indiana State was up 2 games in this league, and we're like, is someone really going to run away with the Missouri Valley? And they promptly lost 2 games outright, and they're now tied with everybody in the two loss column here. I do think Indiana State bounces back. Like you said, Bradley, the defense just isn't the same on the road. It's not the same like intensity. They have the capable individual defenders, a whole lot of switchy big men. Leon's is a total freak. Rink Mass is a monster in the paint, but it doesn't show up as well on the road. And given a semi-buy low for Indiana State off that 2-game losing streak, Matthew, I like the Sycamores here. I think they get it done.
I agree. I've watched a little bit of their last two games, especially the Southern Illinois game. They lost by 8 at home. They were in control early. It just seems like teams eventually figure out their offense a little bit in the Valley. And when you're in conference, you tend to get scouted a little more closely, a little more in depthly. But this is Bradley's first time seeing ISU Blue this season. They did beat them, or Bradley swept them, and that's how they split last year. So the fact that ISU team last year, which was certainly struggling, beat Bradley last year, given how much better they are this year, I think that there's some matchup concerns for Bradley. Jim, you mentioned that the defense doesn't travel as well on the road. You'd think that would, but maybe in this matchup it doesn't. I like the spot for ISU coming off 2 losses. I'd lean their way at this short number.
Well said, Matthew. Go Sycamores. All right, Jim. Chat Mob Part 2.
All right, you each get a question from the American. We'll go to Matt first. Lorenzo Bros. SMU is a 3.5-point road favorite at stinky Tulsa. Does even SMU cover a game as a favorite here?
No. Yeah, it's stink versus stink. I'll take the stink at home catching 3.5. That's my handicap. How about that for nuance?
Yeah, Tulsa's pretty bad inside, and SMU's not going to punish them. So I think not being able to take advantage of that and just beat them up in the paint, Tulsa at least has a fighting chance there. Kai, you get the infuriating Owls of Temple, Harry R's Owls. They're -9 at home against East Carolina. What do you got for us? Javon Small might be out for ECU again.
Not to toot the horn, I've been pretty solid fading and betting Temple, timing them right. I stayed away from this game. The spread feels a little bit big to me. Yeah, East Carolina's missing a key guard, but nothing for me in that game.
This has backdoor written all over, doesn't it? Very backdoory for ECU.
What do we call the opposite of a whack-a-mole team where we're actually getting them right, Kai? It's a good whack-a-mole. You need a name.
A metronome.
A bullseye. Metronome. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Right,
that's pretty good.
We'll do better. That's not great. We'll do better.
Yeah, we'll do better. We'll workshop it. Out west, San Diego State, road favorite, 4.5 points at Colorado State, a team that's been really, really disappointing, kind of marred with injuries. Do the Aztecs get right after losing at home to New Mexico over the weekend?
Yeah, I think that spot really gives them a good edge here. They've played well at altitude in this building before, and there were some epic battles with Roddy when those dudes were there last year. Colorado State's very whack-a-mole, and I think when they're in a spot that's unfavorable, I like to fade them. I think when they're a favorable spot, I like to bet on them until they're fully healthy at least. So I think they're in a bad spot tonight. I'd look to bet San Diego State.
Kai in the whack. Grand Canyon is a 12.5-point favorite against Utah Tech. Both teams probably missing their best player. Grand Canyon definitely without Blackshear. He's out for the year with a torn ACL. And then Cam Gooden has been out for Utah Tech, and they've been awful without Gooden. So.
Yeah, the difference between these two teams is Grand Canyon has looked pretty good without Blackshear. They're still winning and competing with good teams. And Utah Tech's been a disaster. So GCU took money. I think it's warranted, especially at that home court. Lean their way, nothing strong.
Yep. Matthew, Big Ten, your Huskers. You love a little bit of corn. They are 6-point home dogs to the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are in a bit of a rut right now. Are they able to get out of it at Nebraska? You're muted, Matthew. You're still
going to talk really loud.
There it is.
No, I'm good now. I'm good now, right? Yeah. I was going to talk really loud and talk over the mute button. It doesn't work like that, apparently. Juwan Gary, Sam Griesel know what their status is tonight for Nebraska.
Griesel
they are not very
Gary
deep.
Out a while.
Gary's out. Sorry, Gary's out. Yeah, thank you.
Griesel is in.
I'm sorry. Griesel's playing. Still can't bet it without Gary. I think this team's good when all pieces are intact, but they're not deep enough to withstand even one injury. And I think Gary's very important. So I would lean toward Ohio State, even though they're in a funk.
Kai, back to the Valley for you. Illinois State, who has been one of my king whack-a-mole teams this year. 8.5-point road dogs at Northern Iowa, and also a team that's been tough to figure out without Heisey. This feels a little high, but I don't know. You tell me.
It does feel high, but UNI's been good at home, and they've also been, frankly, pretty good in the Valley. I think they're 5-2 in Valley play. I guess I'd lean towards Illinois State, but I don't trust that team whatsoever, Jim. I agree. Whack-a-mole indeed, and pretty much flying below expectations, I would say, this year.
Yep. And Sandage missed last game. One of their few shooters. I think he matters a little bit. Matt, back to the American. Cincinnati, 4-point road favorite at South Florida, who can actually score this year. What's happening? Anything for you in this one?
I like South Florida. Just look back at that roster and then remove the South Florida stench that you have from all those years where they couldn't score 50 points against anybody and they shot 25%. This roster actually has some offensive, I wouldn't say talent, but potential, and they've showed it. I think they're playing a little faster. little more fluid. It's a more balanced team. I like this bowl squad. I hate that I'm saying that, but I like this bowl squad. I win their way tonight.
Matt, the chat's saying you need a day off, some load management after your engagement and traveling.
I do.
So we'll
I'm
get
all
you
over the
that on
place for that.
Friday.
It's one of my worst shows of the season. I'll admit that. I'll watch the tape. I'll get better. It's fine.
We'll get you that on Friday. Don't worry. Kai, the Bills, St. Louis, a city that you're going to be passing through tomorrow. They are at Loyola up here in Chicago. Both these teams really disappointing, but man, the Ramblers are the most disappointing team in this league. Does SLU take care of business on the road?
Yeah, it's kind of always like, can Loyola really be this bad? Should I keep fading Loyola? I have the last couple of games. It's worked out very well. I didn't do it again. I stayed away. The reason being, I'm not sure who's in and out for SLU. Yuri Collins missed last game. He's only a little bit important for that team, though they did cover against GW without him in a strange result. Also, Jalen Pickett, I think, is day-to-day as well. So I stayed away because the injury questions. But, yeah, there's no faith right now in Loyola. They look terrible.
I have a small working theory that no Collins helped them last game because you got this monster Javonte Perkins game, 27 points. Like, he got to handle the ball and get some more confidence. So I'm curious if that actually helps SLU long-term. All right, last two here. Matthew, G-Webb at Longwood. Longwood is a 5-point home favorite in the Big South. Gardner-Webb's been a pretty feisty underdog last couple of years. Really well-coached team. Do the Lancers win big?
I kind of think so. I don't like fading Longwood. And that's from a guy who'd love G-Webb coming into this season. We have officially lost Kai. It was a good run for him in the lobby, but it's going to be a two-man show from here on out, Jimbo. So I'll ping-pong it back to you for more questions, as I have no takes on the extra board usually.
No worries. I think we only have one more game in Chat Mob. Kai's already revealed his best bet, so we can just recap that. Last question in Chat Mob. Xavier, 8.5-point favorites at DePaul. This feels like a tough spot for DePaul here. Tough spot for Xavier. Big home win over the weekend. Now you go to DePaul, tougher game to get hyped for. My only concern for the Demons, Matthew, is that Caleb Murphy might play. And again, I just don't think he's going to be a net positive when he's back in with back from his wrist injury.
I agree.
I just don't have a big appetite to get smashed by Xavier. So I'm staying away from that game.
Yeah, stay away. It feels high, but the total is 157. Like, this will be a high scoring game. So 9 will play more like 7. So keep that in mind if you're trying to bet. Hey, I saw our King Brad Evans asking about SLU Loyola, Jim, also in the Chi-Town area. Did we get that, Dave? Did I miss that?
Yeah, Kai, we talked about SLU for like 2 minutes.
I was checked out. I was going through the board.
Javonte Perkins had a huge game. Oh boy, the chemistry.
Man.
All right.
Oh, he's back.
We're good through Chat Mob. We're just going to recap best bets here, and I actually get to go first. I'm going with the Army Bucknell under 143. Surprising that it's only 143. It's like 4 points lower than the Ken Pom total already. But both these teams have been playing really slow in league play. Bucknell had that game. I forget who it was against on the road, but they scored 6 points in the final 15 minutes of game time when you include overtime. It was embarrassing. I think their offense has some serious issues right now. And even Army's pretty porous defense won't be the salve for that. So I think low possession game, and hopefully efficiency isn't crazy enough to push it over that 143 total. Kai, you are back. Do you want to recap your best bet, or should we do it for you?
Mizzou.
There we go.
Tigers. My computer literally died. I'm surprised I'm back. So this is great. Fantastic.
Hey, we love it. The death of a computer, but not the death of our Tigers tonight. Big W for the alma mater. Matthew, your best bet was?
Oklahoma Boomer Sooner. I took +2. I also took some money line just because I got the worst number and I was annoyed by that. So the +120 looked a little more juicy to me, Jim.
By that. All right. That's it. That's everything. Kai, do you want to give us a fun recap from the lobby?
Signing off from the Hampton Inn in Columbia, Missouri. Excited for my Missouri Tigers to beat the Arkansas Razorbacks today. I hope my room's ready soon. I'm ready to lay down a little bit, focus on tomorrow's handicap. Good luck on your bets today, folks. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern,